Since the dawn of time, man has been curious. And for almost as long, the Vibes Broadcast Network has sought the truth. Investigate, discuss, explore. Okay, maybe in other episodes, but this one is just listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I have here Mr. James Pyle, and we're going to have a good conversation. Before we get into that, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better, so tell us all about you.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me. So I actually grew up in Eastern Washington, outside of the city of Spokane. And most people say, oh, Washington, yeah, I know where Seattle is, and that's cool. It's like saying, you know, where Los Angeles is when you tell somebody you're from the Bay. So, close, but doesn't quite count.
Right.
So anyways, I grew up in a small little farming community. My early life was filled with opportunities, I'll call them, of sorting through traumatic, physical, abusive childhood experiences. Mm-hmm. And trying to figure out who I was and what I'm doing on this earth, as well as excelling in sports and academics, because as a result of that early childhood trauma, I had formed a limiting belief that I would never be good enough, that I was never worthy enough to receive love. And so then I thought I had to achieve things. A little bit apart about my story, I don't normally tell people, was I had about a dozen felonies before I was 18.
Oh, wow.
I would gotten into a bunch of trouble, and they're not quite as serious as it sounds, but they were just like weird situations where they had a bunch of charges in them. I was very fortunate, though, that I was able to be tried as a juvenile. I did my community service. I had to do a couple weeks in jail, which, was by no means any bit of time compared to what most people have gone through. But it was enough that at the age of 18, I decided that there was never anything worth doing in the world that would jeopardize me losing my freedom again. And it was from those experiences that I actually, funny story, I won't even really go into all the details of, but I was the valedictorian of my high school senior class, and I was actually expelled from school 3 months before graduation on like the weirdest, craziest trumped up story. But yeah, I ended up actually getting to keep my valedictorian status and graduate. And I was able to get into college at Loyola Marymount down here in Los Angeles. So that was 2003. I moved to Los Angeles from a little town of like less than 1,000 people, moved to one of the largest cities in the world, and went to college here. And my junior year of college, I had received the Entrepreneur Student of the Year award. And that really bolstered my confidence and helped me to gain the confidence in myself that I could be an entrepreneur and I could start my own businesses. So that was the path that I took on, and got into business at 21 years old, building phone rooms. So we were selling actually Sprint Nextel cell phones right when Sprint bought Nextel.
Oh.
So that was a pretty interesting experience and foray off into the entrepreneurial world. I had a couple of buddies that were working for somebody else doing this line of work, and they said, hey, man, you could get a contract doing this. So I did the administrative stuff and formed a company up and got the contract and hired my buddies, and I rented an office space, and they came to work and they got on the phones the first day, and I sat there for probably not even the first hour watching them make calls, and I was like, what? I want some of that. Like, let me get some of this. So I just picked up the phone and started dialing myself, and just started self-learning sales as a professional.
Oh, wow. So kind of going back to the childhood trauma, I've always been very transparent on my shows, and a lot of people that watch, they know that I was molested when I was about 8 years old, and I know when those kind of things happen to you, how devastating it is. And I know my childhood through that period was very difficult. And as I got into junior high and high school, I guess I lashed out with the alcohol and the drugs and, rebelling and all that kind of stuff. And as I got into my adult years, I just kind of put all that out of my mind, and it kind of came to a head when I turned 36. And no, I'm sorry, I take that back. I was in my was in my early 40s. Mix it up, 36, I had a heart attack. But yeah, I went through something that it just seems like everything exploded like a volcano, and I ended up being put into a mental institute for a while, where I kind of revisited those kind of things and learned to deal with it. Now I deal with it very well now, but when those things happen to you, what was the stages for you?
Yeah, great question. And this is something that, I love to share with people. I had a similar pattern. Started drinking alcohol when I was 13.
Yeah.
Started smoking cannabis when I was 14. Just got off into the various world of drugs and alcohol and partying and unhealthy things from there. And first off, I want to say, you never should have had to go through what you went through, and I feel for you. And God bless your soul, man, that you are able to be here today and share this testimony.
Thank you.
It's really a powerful thing to me when I can see people who have taken that mess and turned it into their message, right? And they're able to take what the enemy intended for good and be an example of how our Creator can use that. I'm sorry, what the enemy intended for bad and how our Creator can use that for good.
Yes.
And actually, one of my best friends was molested when he was very, very young, and we've had very in-depth conversations about this. And so part of my journey was actually just self-awareness. I was so lost in who I thought I was and who I thought I wanted to be, that I was also so very caught up in people pleasing. So really, I would say I had some awarenesses in my mid-20s. I actually stopped drinking alcohol for about 2 years. And then I'd moved internationally. I was living in Australia, and I started drinking alcohol again. And I stayed on that train for about 2 years, actually, 4 years, actually, really. And then around 28, 29, I started realizing, hey, this is not going a good direction. I'm addicted to Adderall. I'm addicted to cannabis. I'm addicted to alcohol, all these different things. And so it ended up with me crashing and burning at 33, actually, and or 32 rather. It was 4 years ago in the month of July. I had pulled in some people into my real estate venture. I was scaling. We were scaling. We were at a 10 million run rate within 18 months of launching this investment company. And I was the best I'd ever done in business, at least financially. And I was taking probably 120 to 150 plus milligrams of Adderall a day, plus like 7 or 8 Norco Vicodins, plus Soma, muscle relaxers, plus Xanax to go to sleep at night. And I wasn't drinking. I'd stopped drinking at 30, but I was still on the mix of pharmaceuticals. And so it took me actually losing everything, losing my business, losing all of my money, and actually being ready to end my life. And I can remember standing in my bathroom mirror with my 45 automatic in my hand, like looking at myself in the mirror, like, how do I not mess this up? Like, how do I actually make sure I don't fail at this? And it was in that moment I had, if you will, like a revelation, if you will, a come to Jesus moment. And I chickened out. I couldn't do it. I just was too afraid that I'd be the guy who blows half his face off and lives another 50 years to have to tell the story about it, So I just couldn't bring myself to do it. But through that process, I got out of Texas. I got back to California. I got around my family again, and I really pressed into my faith. And what happened was I took everything under review. I started questioning my programming that I'd had since I was a kid in terms of American society and what we're taught to think and the ways we're taught to do things and what's right and wrong. And I literally just brought everything in my life under review. And I started studying a lot about brain health. And it was actually through that was my path to rebuilding myself over the past few years and focusing on my faith and focusing on rebuilding my brain health. Because I realized that, my, if you will, my supercomputer that was organizing everything inside my system, my brain was totally frayed, it was totally miswired. So it was really through pressing into my faith and going in on exercise and diet and nutrition protocols and supplementation to rebuild my brain. And then that actually led me to a place to about 2 years ago, I realized, I just got to get my discipline rebuilt. And I had been fortunate enough that I actually had wrestled growing up as a kid, which was one of my outlets for a lot of the, physical abuse I was experiencing at home. I was able to download that every weekend into my opponents. But, it actually culminated with me joining a jiu-jitsu gym and me going and practicing jiu-jitsu 5 days a week because I I literally heard Jesus tell me, like, everything you need to know about life, you can learn in jiu-jitsu. So I was like, all right, I'll go. He's like, you can go 5 days a week. You can handle 5 days a week. So I just got into that and got myself absorbed in it and just really started rebuilding my discipline and, having that accountability of having to show up and, tell my coach I was going to be at practice. And then I had to be at practice because I wasn't going to be that guy that said he was going to do something and didn't do it. And that actually led me to where I was going with this whole answering of your question of my process. That led me to this place of actually discovering breath work. And I'd meditated for a lot of years, but not meditations in the way that I've been doing lately. And also a book by a guy by the name of Bessel van der Kolk. He's a 40-year Harvard psychologist who wrote a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And actually, I didn't even read this book till about 6 months ago, but in this book, it actually explained how the body holds on to the memories of things and causes the system to become charged with endorphins and adrenaline and such whenever any type of excitement is occurred. And it's actually after understanding what's in that book really led me to a place of being able to forgive myself. I'd forgiven my father many times throughout the years, but just really letting go of it, just being at peace with it and accepting the fact that, hey, that's over. And the only way that shit stays alive, pardon my French, is by me bringing the memory back up in my head to try to remember something about it. So, it's kind of like you said, working through the stuff, dealing with it, honoring my past and my path, but not letting that affect how I'm thinking about things today or the decisions I'm making today. So that was like my long-winded way of answering your question there.
Hey, no problem, man. The more details, the better, because that's the whole focus of the show is there's somebody out there that's had a similar kind of occurrence happen to them, and they, I want to get that message out there that there is life after that, and you can become successful. And you spend so many years just wrapped up in all this stuff and feeling so down about yourself and self-destructive. Because for me, I mean, yes, I attempted suicide several times myself, and fortunately, someone had found me before I actually overdosed. And I guess my point being that this path that we put ourselves on, we have to get to that point to say, you know what, I've had enough. It's time that I change my way of thinking. It's time to get positive. And for me, that was, I got saved when I was about 25 years old. And I started preaching, and I preached for about 5 years. And then I had a falling out with my preacher. And when I did, I left the church, and then it was like being a child all over again. I started to rebel. And, that the whole time I was going to church, I'd quit drinking, quit doing drugs, the whole 9 yards. But then it got worse. I started drinking heavier, and I started doing cocaine a lot heavier. And then to watch my father commit suicide, my little brother commit suicide, something finally kind of spoke inside of me and says, you know what, you need to break this pattern, because all the men in our family, there's something destructive about them. It was alcoholism, it was drug abuse, it was other kinds of abuses. And I didn't want my children to have to go through that. So it came to the point of, I've got to change. And it's, for some people, it takes, I guess that awakening, that moment of clarity to say, yeah, it's time to change. I have kind of got closer to God again. And I know for a lot of people in this world, it's like you mentioned God or you're a Christian, and all of a sudden it's almost like you cussed them out or something. And I don't understand it, because you have to have something to believe in order to get that achievement, get to that next level, to change your life. And even if it's not God, I mean, you believe in I don't know, some spiritual being in the universe, whatever, you need to find something to believe in, so you have that to fall back on. I don't know, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I love this. This is totally a conversation engineered by our creator, because this is the stuff that I speak with my close contacts and my advisors and mentors and my circle and my mentees with all the time. And it's one of the reasons why I'm a big believer in the kingdom message, because so many people have been, experienced like what you mentioned, where they had a falling out, bad experience with somebody who was a Christian, right? And then basically what happens is, and this has happened to me too when I was younger, we put people into a category and we think, oh, okay, since this person who did me wrong was like this, then everybody that's in that category must be, of that similar thing, right? And, where it's at for me is like, look, it breaks down to as simple as this. Anytime in my life when I've really prayed for something and I've really believed I was going to receive it, I got it, including really in the beginning, my ass being saved. It was like, that's what I was praying for, was for God to save my behind. And I will say that I have prayed about some things and they didn't come to fruition, but they are only things that I didn't fully believe in when I prayed them, or they were things that I prayed that were materialistic, that had no purpose in the kingdom. Right. And I agree with what you have to say. People can call it what they want. That's what I tell people. Call it what you like. Call it a higher power. Call it God, universe, creator, source, whatever you want. To me, it's literally an undeniable fact that there is an energy out there that is controlling all of this. Yep. And it's just, we could go off in threads on this for ages, but my main thought in this regard is that's why I use a lot of the word kingdom in my messaging, and why I actually consider and term myself a Christ follower. I don't consider myself a Christian, because Christians have gotten such a bad rap over the years, because Christianity has been turned into a religion in the way that all other religions are. And I actually can't stand religion. I'm highly opposed to religion. Yeah. And some people that aren't as depth in their faith might say, well, that's weird. You believe in Christ, but you say you're opposed to religion. Well, guess what? Jesus came and said, hey, you see these 600 and something laws? None of them mean anything to me. The only thing that matters is love God and love your neighbor. That's it. But then man wants to complicate things or make things that create a power structure and a system for people to have to follow. Right. Yep. And this was in my message at my church yesterday. The pastor's like Romans 8:14 or something, where it talks about, like, you were not given the spirit of religion and which causes fear of being less than or being not good enough. That's what fear really does. It holds people down and keeps them from feeling good enough. And also, as you're talking about there in your experience, this is in my experience where the enemy works the most. People think, oh, you become a Christian or you're a pastor of a church, oh, you're good. No, you got a bigger target on your back than anybody else. For sure. Because you're the person that's out there that's helping bring people away from the darkness and bring them into the light. And, so those people have a huge target on their back. And one other thing I'll share on this is this has actually been a big part of the drive behind the next initiative that we're going to be rolling out later this year with Awareness Elevation. And it's actually a framework to build what we're going to call a Kingdom Advisor Intercessor Board. And literally, it's like a board of directors, but their only role is to actually pray with the entrepreneur and over the leadership of the company. Right. And so what we're working to do is to actually bring that supernatural into the natural, to actually be focused in how we can bring the king's message down into this kingdom. Right. So, I encourage people, and if people are opposed to it, there's no problem with that. Check it out. Go within, get your answers within. Yes. If a person's opinion on religion or faith is based on what somebody else told them, yeah, okay, that's fine. If you want to live your life letting other people tell you what to think and what to do. I was never one for that. And it was probably partially because of the abuse I suffered. Like, I was never going to let anybody dominate me or tell me what to do from then on, for good or for worse. So, yeah.
I agree with you. I used to be all about religion until I realized that's not what everything's about, because how many churches have you visited that they've got one set of rules? You go to the next church, they got another set of rules. You go to the next church, it's the same thing. It's over and over again. So it's all, to me, it's all man-made. And you have to get your spirit one with God. And that's why I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. I don't believe in religion. I go where I'm led. And, I don't always live my life right. I'll be the first one to admit that. We all fall. The thing is don't stay there. When you fall, pick yourself up. And when you need help, when you need that guidance, when you need that encouragement, you have God to talk to. And I've had to do that myself, because I'll get discouraged, and I'm like, why aren't things going like I want them to go? They're going the way they're meant to go. We just have to learn the patience. If you know what I mean.
Totally.
And yeah, you pray, you look for things that are positive in life. This is one thing I always say, is your gratitude changes your attitude. So always be thankful for what you have. Don't look at what you don't have. Don't look at the things that you can have. Look at what you have right now. Be thankful for it. And if somebody else out there needs something that you have, you should be willing to give that, because you get back. You always get back. If you give, you're going to get back. That's why my circle of friends have gotten a lot smaller. There's people out there that I love to death, that I'd still do anything for them today. I'd still call them my brother, but they're still doing the stuff that I'm trying to stay away from, drinking and drugs. It would just take that one slip and I'd fall right back into it. I know it would. So I have to stay away from it. And I'm very grateful that God has put somebody in my life, my wife that I have now, that's helped me to stay focused. Sometimes, you do fall, but don't stay there. That's my point. And I
agree with that completely. Yeah, I agree with that completely. And, I'm the first person that, I will say I do not live in a glass house. So I'm not the first person to throw stones.
Exactly.
I could get, upset, lose my cool, operate in a less than resourceful state from time to time as well. I think the key, though, that, what you had mentioned in there is, there's a saying I picked up several years ago that it's when you get to a certain level in life, you stop asking what's wrong with what I'm doing and you start asking what's right with what I'm doing. Right.
That's right. That's right.
And that's, as we got to change the people, places, and things, as you talk about. And that can be difficult sometimes for some people. But the other key that stuck out to me from what you just shared is that, your current wife has been a big help. And what speaks to me in that realm is we are meant to be in community. We're not meant to be isolated.
That's exactly
and
what I say.
Yeah. And without going down the rabbit holes of this whole COVID pandemic and separation and people having to wear masks, and I don't even want to get into all that stuff because it's not healthy for us.
That's
I'm
true.
just saying, the whole situation isn't healthy for us to be isolated, right? Which is what the powers that be want to create, because they know that lowers people's frequency. There's been studies done that people are going to these meditation conferences where they're focusing and meditating on love, and they're taking a blood sample before the conference and they're taking a blood sample after the conference, and they're putting COVID into the pre-conference blood sample, and COVID's taking over the blood, but they're injecting COVID in the post-conference sample, and it's actually defeating 30% of the virus, right? And so what it's showing is that when we actually have a heightened frequency, when we're operating in that heightened state, which God is love is the highest frequency in existence in the universe and beyond. And when we operate those higher frequencies, we can actually supercharge this unit, this machine, the human machine, right? But, again, without going all the crazy rabbit trails, that's what the powers that be don't want us to know that. I mean, let's think about it. Like if everybody knew that all you need was a relationship with God, love your neighbor, and a little piece of land to grow like an organic vegetable garden, a little bit of livestock on, the world could be a happy place. But
Yes,
guess
sir.
what? That doesn't feed the big machine of the American economy and the global economy. That doesn't feed the industrial, what do they call that? The industrial military complex that we're living in, right? So, I think the keys in here are, like you're saying, is getting to a place in our life where we're looking at what's right with this versus what's wrong with it. And then also being very diligent. This is something I share with people all the time, being very diligent in the people we surround ourselves with. The people we interact with, we become like, and as you just mentioned, I have I have phone books full of those friends, of people who I love dearly, but I just got to stay away from them because they're doing stuff I'm not into, and they don't provide good to my life, and they would only take away from my life. So I've just had to determine, hey, this person's got to be in those outer layers,
Yeah, that's it. I hate the fact that, there's relationships that I've had with people for 30, 40 years. And now, I just have to stay away from it. I have to keep the positivity going. I've got a path. I've got to stay on it. I want to take people along with me, but it's got to be people that want to succeed, people that want, the good things in life, the positivity. And like you said too, we're meant to commune. And by no means, I'm not advocating for or against here, but I hate the masks because they cover up people's faces, and I love to see somebody smile, that
Yeah.
that expression on their face. Um, I have a grandson that he's not quite 2 years old yet, but I mean, we go out in public and most everybody is wearing a mask. He doesn't get to actually see other people's
Gosh.
faces and enjoy it. I mean, that's insane. And I say I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm ready for all this to be over with, and let's go back to life again. And I think we all need to commune. We all need to I think your neighbors would know that you loved them if you were able to commune with them instead of being separated from them. And that's what I'm afraid of, is we've been so used to the separation. How long is it going to take for us to come back together again?
Yeah, completely. And this is, where I talk about the programming, right? There've been all these societal constructs and power structures implemented and instituted to create people to think a certain way, right? And to believe certain things, especially with social media and people feeling constantly in lack because they're looking at what they think somebody else has, but this other person's literally pretending they don't even have it. They're just standing in front of the cool car taking the photo. Right? Or they're standing next to the pretty girl taking the photo, or she's a model who's paid to be there and pose. Right. But one of the things that you mentioned that I'm about is meritocracy. Like, yo, I'm down to like this is, I always say it's like a raft or a canoe, and we're going to the promised land. And you're more than welcome to get in this raft once I see that you could swim alongside it and that you could swim. And once I know you could swim and I'm cool with you getting in my raft, cool. You can get in the raft and your job is to paddle. But if you get in this raft and you ain't paddling, I'm kicking your butt right back out, because I don't need people. I don't need people to give a ride to. You know what I'm saying? And that's the key in here, is that I always tell people, you got to be ready to save yourself. A lot of people, they show up and we all have this hero savior complex because of things that have happened in our life. And that's a whole nother delusion, but people, they think, oh, I'm going to save these people. Well, and it's just like me when I was younger. I wanted to help people. I wanted to serve people. I wanted to save people. But guess what? I was drowning. So how in my right mind can I save somebody else? It's the old airplane analogy, like when you get on the airplane, what do they say? When the mask drops out of the ceiling, what's the first thing you do? You put your mask on before you try to help anybody else put their mask on. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out here running around without their mask on, trying to put other people's masks on for them. And it even talks about this in scripture where it says, what good is it to tell your friend that he has a splinter in his eye when you have a log in your eye, right? And it's like, so very true. But I think the key is here, though, is, and you seem like somebody who's of a similar mindset. I basically realized after the whole lockdown and shutdown, last year, and then reopening stuff at the beginning of this year, I said, you know what, forget these guys. Whatever they're going to try to tell people, they're going to try to tell people. I'm going to go and I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to travel. I'm going to build my business. I'm going to share the goodness of God with others. I'm going to give everybody love. And if they want to arrest me for that, then cool. Bring it on, dude. Like I split my time between Texas and California. If they get me in California, you know how many hungry attorneys there are out here just waiting to fire up a litigious, lawsuit against these freaking government entities and such. I got no problem with that. And I'm not trying to spend a bankroll on that by any means. But my point is I just realized, you know what, I'm not going to buy into the nonsense. Yeah. I stopped watching the news like a decade ago, when I realized, hey, this is all made up. It's just a puppet show.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's all the news channels are owned by Disney. Disney is like the largest cartoon maker in the world, right? So you got the news outlets that are supposed to be providing factual information are owned by a conglomerate that makes cartoons.
Yeah, don't get me started on that.
Yeah, I didn't mean to kick the can of gas on the fire there, but basically I was just saying, you seem like the kind of guy like myself that you're moving on with life. You're going forward. You're going to live your life. You're going to do what you got to do. And if they want to come after me, come after me. But
yeah,
I'm going to go and I'm going to ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Well, one thing that I've also noticed is everything, like in the news and in the sports and TV, movies, it's meant to divide us. And,
Yep.
you know, you're almost told you need to pick a side. And I'll be honest, I am very conservative in my thoughts and my beliefs. And I I was like, God, these sorry so and so's on the other side. And it's like, wait a second, this country was supposed to be like a marriage, and a marriage is going to work if you're able to disagree, but still come to
Compromise.
a
Yeah.
compromise.
Yeah.
And instead of, not liking these people, hating these people, why can't we just get together and work out our differences? And let's not say, this is my side, this is your side. Let's say, okay, what is going to make us both happy? But we have to come together. This can't be, bullheaded. Both sides have to come together and make a decision and say, okay, I can live with that. I'm tired of the divide. This country is splitting apart, and I'm thinking we're actually going to see two countries here.
Yeah, the dissolution of the union.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. It's one of the reasons I'm glad every time I'm in Texas, I'm hanging out there.
This is God's country here.
Yeah, that's right. I was gonna say, I thought I saw a Whataburger in the background. You must be out there in Texas. Yeah.
Better believe it.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. But yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think that the key in here is that we have to do what's within our control and within our power. And the thing that jumps out to me from what you're talking about there, this is the place that the enemy attacks everyone, and that's in identity, right?
Yep, exactly.
We're what society and programming and all this stuff wants to tell us who our identity is, and the enemy wants to lie to us about who our identity is. And in fact, he don't even have to work that hard. He just has to tell one little lie, and 3 months later, we're sitting there spun out, drinking, doing drugs, going, "Who the hell am I?" Because of one little lie the enemy told us, right?
Exactly.
And he put us off track, but the fact of the matter is that we have to be aware of these programmings, of this conditioning that we're getting from all these different inputs, and we have to take control of it.
Yes.
We have to, and that's why I love what you're doing with this podcast. That's what I'm doing in my business, is getting this messaging out so people can wake the heck up.
Yeah.
It's like it was a group of people that affected the change of the situation we're experiencing now. So it's a group of people that are going to affect the change to make it better in the future.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, what you were talking about there, people having differences. It seems like, with the internet age and people having this ability to battle in perpetuity digitally, it used to be, hey, you and I could talk about something. We got differing opinions, whatever. We'll hug it out, say, hey, I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you. But hey, each of us is entitled to our own thing. Nowadays, it's more of like a you're right and I'm wrong type thing. And until the whole world knows that you're right and I'm wrong, then we're not going to stop this dispute. And, I'm not by any means advocating violence, because I was experienced violence as a kid. But I'm just saying a lot could be solved by just going out behind the old schoolhouse, when people had a dispute like they used to do back in the day, and I'm not saying that's the final solution for things, because it's not, but it's, a lot less people would be talking a lot less crap if those things were still in order, because, it was, and I'm sure your generation prior to me, you got a few years on me, you probably experienced it more than I did. When somebody
Generation
was
X,
in your
baby.
face, yeah, that's what's up. When somebody was in your face about something or talking smack, like, things got done about it, and people knew not to mess with certain people, because, hey, you don't talk smack to that guy, because he's going to lay it down,
Oh, you
and
had to grow
nowadays you
tough
got all
skin.
these, yeah. Well, and you got all these digital punks nowadays. They're building bots to talk smack to you 24/7. These faceless, nameless people.
When everybody's offended by everything, which is ridiculous.
Oh God. Yeah, totally.
And
Totally.
I take a chance of losing an audience just by saying the words that I'm a conservative. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm Republican. I'm not saying I'm Democrat. I'm not saying any of that stuff.
Right.
I want this to be a place for everybody to come to. So don't take that what I just said and say, oh, well, you're conservative. You don't have anything that I need to hear. No, that's not right. I'm trying to help everyone. I want everybody to be able to come here and talk. I have people on here that have opposing views to me, and I don't stop them from saying what they need to say. I publish everything that they say. If as long as we don't get into this conversation of it's time to hurt somebody because they don't
Right.
agree, or
Right.
to put people down because you don't agree. That's where I have to draw the
Right.
line. But I want to hear what you're feeling, what you're thinking. I want to be able to say, hey, well, let's compromise here. I want to get along with everyone. Yeah. Like I say, I'm not prejudiced because some of my best friends are Houston Texans fans. So, um, but seriously, I'm tired of the divide, and I just want to see people be successful. I don't care who you are. One of my best friends is Muslim, and so what? What difference does that
Right.
make? We get along just fine. So his religion is different from mine. So what? We still get together and go to Whataburger.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm very scared for what's going on right now, but that doesn't mean that we have to give up the fight.
Mm. Totally. We need to press into that and continue to get the messaging out there for the next generation so that
That's
they
right.
can understand the way the world is intended to be, and that we can help them understand the moves that they can make and the actions they can take to help get us there. And that's something that I experienced too. It's like, look for the similarities, not the differences. And
Exactly.
it's like, if people had more in common with, hey, I'm a human being, you're a human being, we're made to operate from a place of love, cool. But it's when we get the programming of religion, the programming of society, the programming of divide, like you just said. I mean, I'm pretty conservative in terms of like, business and a lot of my viewpoints on things, but I'm also really liberal, especially in regard to like plant medicine,
Yeah.
psychedelic therapy for trauma, using cannabis in a healthy manner that's not in an addictive protocol, where it's actually able to enhance our connection with our creator and not becoming a crutch substance we're just using all day long to get through the day. And it's because of the programming we've had that people were taught that this stuff was bad. you know
Yeah.
and it's like, now we're getting all this research showing, oh my god, look, cannabis can cure cancer. Literally, the cannabinoids eat away at cancer cells, but yet
Wow.
this is an illegal substance, right? You got people who have been through trauma, like both you and I have. You got former special forces operators who have all kinds of traumatic brain injuries and trauma, and they're
Absolutely.
going through these psychedelic therapies, and they're actually healing their brains and their spirits. Like, can you imagine the relief that a person can get when they're having nightmares of flashbacks of seeing their best friend's face explode, from a AK round, and now they can go and they could do an ibogaine, or they could do a ayahuasca, or they could do a psilocybin treatment where they can actually get healing from this stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm very interested in that too, because I've heard the topic come up, and I'll admit that I'm ignorant about it.
Mm,
I've seen stuff come up on YouTube for and against, but I haven't actually sat down and watched them. So, but I am interested in it because I know that there was a time when I was taking Ambien, and I would be almost on a trip, but I noticed that I would be more relaxed the next day than I had ever been before. Now, Ambien doesn't do anything for me now, but I don't know. Does that make sense, or is that just something that I'm
yeah.
just
Well,
making up?
no. Well, I mean, my understanding of and experience, Ambien is a pretty dangerous substance,
It
because
is.
it's
It
off in
is.
that pharmacological realm.
I don't
But
recommend it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But the experience you're talking about, so I'd actually suggest two things for you and your listeners. One is a gentleman by the name of Ben Greenfield.
Ben
He's like a
Greenfield.
biohacking expert, Ben Greenfield. He's actually a believer. He's a fellow believer, and he puts out a ton of information on faith. Um, he's like an ultra endurance athlete type guy, but he puts out all kinds of podcasts about plant medicine and plant medicine therapy. He's always interviewing people who are pioneers in this industry. And the other guy is Tim Ferriss, who you may have heard of. He's the author of that book, The 4 Hour Work Week. He's a legendary entrepreneurial venture capitalist guy. But both of these guys are major influencers, and they put out a ton of information on psychedelic therapy and the ways that people can look into it. There's actually a nonprofit called MAPS, MAPS,
Hmm.
that's actually like a body that's doing a lot of the actual charted research, recorded research on this stuff. And, I mean, I've never gone and had like a therapeutic administration, if you will, but I have definitely developed my own protocols that I follow almost, if you will, like a ritual. And I do a trip dose at least once a quarter. And I usually do a micro dose once a week, sometimes more than once a week. I'm very, very conscious of and intentional of my environment when I'm getting ready to take the plant medicine. I'm very conscious and cognizant of any inputs that I have when I'm on it and what I'm doing while I'm on it. I'm literally taking it and laying down and putting an eye shield on and doing meditations and listening to instrumental, basically therapeutic type music that doesn't have any words, that just allows me to meditate and go within and connect with my creator.
Right.
And it's through these protocols. I mean, really, it was like April of last year I really started practicing the microdosing schedule. And I've noticed such a significant change across the board. Like, I just did a microdose yesterday, and man, it just like boosts me for the entire week. And a microdose by the protocols I'm using is defined as like 0.1 to 0.4 of a gram of psilocybin. So you're talking like, even if you took 0.4, you're not feeling any psychedelic effects. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's such a small amount that it would be comparable to like, a half a glass of wine or something like that in terms of the effect that it would have on your system.
Okay. Now, I guess you're familiar with Marble Falls here in Texas, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, there's a shop down there, and I wished I could remember the name of it, but there's a lady there that she deals with a lot of different herbs and things like that. And my wife was telling her about, how I have a hard time sleeping and I have a hard time relaxing. And so she has a form of peyote. Now, granted, it doesn't give you any of the hallucinogens or anything, but and this is what's amazing too. I have asthma, so I can't be around cigarette smoke. But for some reason, I smoke this and I don't have an asthma attack, and it relaxes me. And say you don't trip or anything like that. You don't get high. It's just there's something in it that helps you relax in it. And I mean, there's truth to it. There's herbs and all kinds of things out there that are natural that can help you, and you can get away from some of these pharmaceuticals. Now I'm gonna have to stress this, but consult your doctor before you stop taking medicine or you go and you take medicine. But consider going and checking out some of these different herbs and things. Some of it's in forms of tea. Some of it you smoke. I mean, there's all kinds of different ones, but they have properties in them that help you sleep, relax, helps you from having those anxiety attacks and things like that. Let me tell you what, I used to have those anxiety attacks bad, to the point I thought I was having another heart attack. So yeah, check these things out. But I'm saying, I'm not a doctor. You need to consult your doctor before doing anything if you have anything wrong with you. So
totally. Yeah, I second all of that. And make sure that any listeners that want to check into this stuff, do your diligence. There's a website, I think it's called The Third Wave. It's a collective of some of the best information out on psychedelics currently. And also, go easy. Wade into the shallow end. There's been so many people who are put off from this sort of stuff because of the propaganda that's been used. People think, oh my gosh, if I take a psilocybin mushroom, I'm going to lose my mind and never come back into this reality. And when in fact, that's not the case. Right. When in fact, it would take like several grams of ingesting of that substance to get into a place where like you're really losing touch with reality. And like what you mentioned with the peyote, it's pretty amazing. These plant remedies, when they are ingested in the therapeutic manner they are intended for, it's pretty awesome to see their capabilities and the things they can do. I mean, there was a podcast I listened to. There is a podcast I listened to, the Jocko podcast. You may have heard of it, but he's a former Navy SEAL, and he had a guy on there who was the second quad amputee back from Afghanistan. Oh, wow. They actually talked about how they do a ketamine coma, where they put the patient into a ketamine coma for like a week, and they keep you in this like basically comatose state on the ketamine. And what it does is it actually allows the entire nervous system to reprogram itself and stop looking for the phantom limbs. Oh, wow. So a person who's like an amputee or a multiple amputee, it's able to actually solve their pain, like literally in a matter of days for the rest of their life. They can get rid of their pain, right? But it's through pressing into these alternative therapies and these alternative things. It's also ketamine's being used to treat depression and stuff nowadays. So there's a lot of these alternative therapies available. And like you mentioned, do your research, consult with your doctor, but also be aware of the fact that most doctors are trained in Western medicine. Most doctors are going to be, they're getting paid an extra little bonus for the prescription they write you.
Yep.
So just be aware of the economic machine that's behind that. I always encourage people to talk to a chiropractor and talk to like a acupuncturist or like an oriental medicine specialist. Obviously consult your doctor, but also seek these alternative therapies that have been being used for hundreds, if not thousands of years to actually heal people, not to treat people's symptoms. Right.
Yeah. That's what they want to do. I've had back problems since I was in my mid-20s. And every time I'd go to the doctor, they just want to throw pain pills and muscle relaxers at me. Mm-hmm. And I went one time and I told the doctor, I said, look, man, I said, you keep throwing these pills at me. I said, I need a solution. I don't want to just mask it. I'm tired of taking all these pills because I'm already an addictive personality. So I need to stay away from that kind of stuff. And then he got all huffy and puffy about it. I ended up going to a sports medicine doctor, mm-hmm. and he showed me like stretches and exercises that I could do to keep from having this back pain. Now, as years went on, I have some kind of degenerative bone disease that was eating away at my spine. And once again, it was, they gave me the steroids and all this other junk and pain pills, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, look, we need to take care of this problem. I was in a wheelchair or using a cane for 2 years. Wow. And then I go to their doctor who did these x-rays and MRIs and all this junk. And he says, well, there's absolutely nothing we can do for you. We just have to keep giving you these prescriptions. And I'm like, this can't be right. Well, when I first came here to the Austin area, I went to go see Dr. Mohimi. So if you're in Texas and you're listening to this, look him up. He's in Austin. He's also in Cedar Park. And he fixed my neck. And I went to him. I said, look, man, I'm having this problem with my back. He looked at it and he says, we're going to give it a shot. So I go in and he did have to do surgery. They gave me a bone graft, and now I'm able to walk. Now, unfortunately, I'm still having back problems, but I'm looking for something alternative from all this junk they want to put in my body. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I do. And, that's the key there, that it's unfortunate. I've got to the similar place myself. It's unfortunate that we have to go through. It's kind of like we were talking about at the beginning of the call. We go through this disillusioned experience of who we think we're supposed to be and what we think we're supposed to do until we actually figure out who we really are and what we're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Same thing you're describing and that I've experienced in myself and my health. Our health is our wealth. You could have everything in this world. If your health ain't rocking, you ain't got nothing, bro. Right?
That's right.
And like you said there, though, is that, the knowledge of this stuff doesn't feed the machine. And unfortunately, humans are kind of like lemmings. It's like you tell them something, they're like, oh, okay, this is just how the way it is. So this is what we do. And we just fall in line here and we just follow everybody right off the cliff. Mm-hmm. And it's like being awakened to the fact that there's got to be a better way. I mean, that was honestly, brother, that was the thought that I had in my mind when I was ready to take my life. I was just like, yo, there's got to be a better way to life than this. Yep. I was like, however this is, I've been doing it, this shit ain't working. I'm taking all these drugs and smoking all this weed, and I can't get away from my problems. They just come back and they get worse and worse and worse. Yeah. And it was like I was taking the drugs because I was doing things that were against my morals and ethics that I should have never been doing anyways. And I couldn't even stand to look at myself in the mirror. So I'm trying to drown out my conscience. Right.
Right.
And, fortunately for me, God made my conscience so strong, no matter how much drugs I take, it's still there telling me I'm messing up. So
that's true. Well, and I have to stress, always talk to your doctor. Yep. If you don't trust that doctor, find you another one. But, from the time I was 36 up until now, and I'm about to turn 51, I have been on all kinds of drugs and stuff because I'm diabetic, high blood pressure, heart disease, you name it, I probably have it. And then, of course, as the years went on, I started having the mental problems, the anxiety, depression, and all that. And, the therapy was wonderful, but then they start pushing those drugs on me.
Right.
And like I said, I'm not going to recommend this to anyone. You talk to your doctor if you're on any of these medications. But for me, I weaned myself off of them. I got into meditation, and I'm gonna tell you what, I deal better with anxiety now that I'm meditating before I like get into a stressful situation than ever taking any of those drugs.
Mhm.
I've fought depression since I was a kid. I've never been able to deal with it like I do now. And I'm off those drugs. And those drugs weren't doing anything. I was still feeling those feelings. I don't understand. You know, this was supposed to be the miracle cure, but it wasn't. You know, eat right. That's another thing. Eat right, exercise, all that stuff. I lost 70 pounds. And even though I still have diabetes, I'm still, that's going to be a war that I'm going to fight to the day I die. But I maintain my diabetes because I don't go out, eat a bunch of, junk and candy and all that. Now, granted, I can't exercise like I used to be able to, but you can still get out and walk and do things like it. There's something you can do. You have to take control. Don't let somebody else take
100%.
control for you. You have to do it yourself.
100%. And you hit the nail on the head there. I actually believe 80 to 90% of health problems can be resolved with just nutrition.
Mhm.
And if we look at our ancestors weren't at the gym lifting weights and all this crap. Again, societal programming, conditioning. I'm not saying lifting weights doesn't work. It obviously does to some regard, right?
Yes.
But like you're saying, just eating right. And it's even not so much about eating right. It's just avoiding the horrible bad stuff, right? And that's going to help us eat more right. And then walk 20, 30 minutes, a few days a week. That's all we need to just keep our system moving and stuff, and it's because you have such a fighter warriors mentality though, brother, that you're doing this, and unfortunately, I don't mean to sound like, stereotypical or cliche here, but unfortunately, a lot of the younger generations, my generation and younger, have missed out on a lot of that, and I can be soft in a lot of ways, but there are times in my life when I'm very grateful for the, if you will, let's say the resilience building exercises that I experienced almost on a daily basis as a child. I try to find the positive and put the positive spin on everything. And by no means am I, advocating for or saying it's okay for anybody to be abused, because it's totally not.
Right.
And I really resonated with what you said when you said what was actually, I heard a word from the Lord saying generational curses, as you were talking about your brother and your father. And then you were like, hey, I got to stop this pattern.
Yep.
And then you are the one to break that generational curse, man. And I applaud you for that and commend you for that. It's never easy, and the work never ends.
No,
but it sounds like you're finding the path, and fulfillment and helping others. So
well, I don't want people to be disillusioned and think though, oh, well, if I just think positive and I do this, everything's always going to be perfect. You've got to get fine tuned every once in a while. Something's got to happen. If everything was perfect in your life and you never had any problems, then I don't think you'd appreciate the things that are good in your life. You go through these things that are awful, so when the good times come around, you're more thankful and you appreciate it. But you have to be in that mindset, and sometimes that's not easy to do. You get that, oh, woe is me, everything always bad happens to me, blah 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 blah. Okay, yeah, bad things happen to everybody, but you have to learn how to deal with it.
Yeah, 100%. It was like you were talking about a moment ago there. It's like when we actually stop looking to substances and situations to numb us out from the feelings we're supposed to feel, and we actually learn how to sit with our emotions and process things as they come up, and learn how to actually control our emotions and our behaviors. As you were talking about, I'm in a similar place too. I do breath work and meditation every day. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a guy by the name of Wim Hof at all or not, but he's got kind of a cool little breathwork protocol. Those are the type of things that actually help me to elevate, to stay elevated, and keeping control of myself. And I actually developed this funny little thing, like whenever I feel myself slipping and coming out of my highest state mentally, I look at the person or the situation and I say, you're hilarious. And then I just start doing Wim Hof breathing, and everybody starts laughing. They're thinking, what the hell's wrong with this guy? He's hyperventilating over here. And what I found in that experience is that it actually like helps to break up the energy of that moment. and helps me to like pull back from being so involved in my emotions that I'm going to do something that's not of my best self. And just in having that little couple second pause, you know, and say you're hilarious, get myself to laugh and do some holotropic breaths and then hold my breath for a minute. That's enough to kind of break it up in my brain so that I'm able to keep my awareness.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I actually learned that technique from somebody I had interviewed. And
wow.
I never realized, you know, she would tell me, you know, you say these positive things as you're inhaling, and then you you dispel the bad things when you're breathing.
Right.
And
Right.
it helps. I mean, of course, when I remember to do it. But,
Yeah, totally.
but I
It's
mean,
like anything, got to train yourself.
yeah, you really do. You have to train yourself. And, you know, it's something else that can really, really help is get into nature. You know,
Amen.
I take my grandson out all the time, but you know, I'm trying to get my kids to come up here more often so we can go walk in some of these rivers and be in the trees and just listen to the animals and, you know, just get into nature. And you ground yourself and you feel so much better. You know, it's hard to describe. You feel so good after you get into nature. And you know, something else that's helped me, and even though it's really difficult for me to do right now, is I started growing my own vegetables and things. And
Oh yeah.
man, it's nothing like, you know, seeing something grow that you've been nurturing. It's That's a great feeling too. And I make a lot of peppers and stuff like that because, you know, we love to eat pico de gallo and stuff like that. And now I don't have to go to the grocery store to buy it. It's right out there in my backyard. It's wonderful.
Man, that's what's up. I'm trying to get to that place. I'm looking at a box of sprout seeds I just got in the mail the other day. I'm about to start my own little sprout garden here to get going on that. So yeah, I commend you on that. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, man, herbs and things like that. I mean, it's natural. It's right there. You don't have to go to the grocery store. Just walk out in the backyard. Man, you just get out. That's one of my favorite things to do now is I'll go make my coffee and I go out in the backyard. I turn on my water hose and I, you know, water all the plants and everything. And I'm looking at them. I'm picking this bad stuff off of it. And, you know, it sounds ridiculous, but talk to your plants. It actually works.
The real deal. Yeah.
It does. It sounds crazy, but it works. I've had things that look like they were dying, and you go out and you nurture it and you talk to it, and before you know it, it's blooming again. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's actually some studies that have been done where they played like death metal music in the room where the plants were growing, and then they played like, you know, positive upbeat music, and the plants with like the low frequency music were like barely making along and dying, and the ones with like the loving good music were like thriving. You know, so there's definitely something to that.
Well, you've seen the studies where they have water, and if you say like positive things towards the water, it actually changes the molecules.
Right.
It's freaking amazing. If you haven't seen it, look it up. I'm sure they have videos on YouTube about it, but I've actually watched the study, and I think it's a Japanese scientists that have been doing it, but it actually changes it, and it's incredible.
Yeah, it's powerful. I've always said that to me, after the power of God, you know, love, that being the overarching, I believe the second most powerful force in the universe is spoken word.
It really is.
You know, and I think a lot of people are, you know, and I've been like this too in the past, but and I still work on it daily. But I think a lot of times people are very unaware of the ways that they talk to themselves, both internally and externally, and that dictates so much of our life experience.
Yeah, really does. You go to somebody who's down and you just tell them the right thing, the right positive thing, you could change their whole day. Yeah, I've seen that. I've had people actually message me because I used to do a daily affirmations kind of thing on Instagram. I guess I really should get back into it, but I'd have people message me and say, you know what, your words really helped me get through the day. There's people that, you know, would have done something stupid and all they needed to hear was something positive. So yeah, those words, they carry a lot. Just like it's causing negativity in the world right now, it can cause positivity if you just need more people to do it.
Totally. It's raising the collective consciousness around the world. And, I think a lot of that comes from hope. I think a lot of people have experienced a lot of, if you will, like hope just absolutely vaporizing and disappearing from their life. And that's one of the things I do my best to speak into people. And it's actually one of my favorite things I've been doing. I actually kind of fell out of it over the last couple of weeks, but I just like to roll up on people and pray with them, and not like an overly Jesus, like, oh, you better come and get your redemption. You're going to, no, not like that. Just like, hey, what's going on with you, man? Like, I rolled up on these 6, like basically people from a convalescent home the other day. They were down at the beach here in Redondo. And I just walked by him and I just felt the Lord telling me to pray over him. So I stopped and said, hey, does anybody here want a prayer? And like one older lady looked at me and said, for what? I said, well, for just because, and like, then I prayed over these people. And I don't know if these people may have anybody pray over them for the rest of their life, but I just thought it was an awesome experience to get to share that with people. Yeah. And man, that supercharges me. Like I get so juiced on that stuff. That's better than any drug I've ever had in the world. Yep. Man, is when I pray with other people and the Holy Spirit wells up inside of me. And I'm just like, oh, I'm riding that high for several hours, and other people always say, oh, well, thank you for praying for me. I'm like, dude, you don't even know how much I get from this. Like, this is legit,
That's kind of like whenever I do a wedding, because I'm an officiant. It's something, just it hypes you up. You're praying over them and you're bonding people together, and it's something about that experience. And like I say, when you get to pray with someone, every once in a while, when I guess when I really need it, somebody out of the blue will just say, I'm going to pray for you, or they'll just stop me and say, hey, can we pray together? I always do. I don't care if people think it looks ridiculous. That doesn't matter. Those things don't matter. What matters is the message right there. And
and
it changes.
What I see as what matters too is what our Father sees. That's right. I could really give a crap about what anybody riding by on their bike or driving by in their car thinks about me. I really could. I'm most concerned with what the Father thinks of me and what the Father sees me doing.
Well, some of these people that look at you funny, you probably never see them again in your life anyway.
So yeah, no, absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely not. And hopefully it plants a seed in them that can come to fruition later. But I just let them keep on kicking. So
it's like, I tell people, if you feel like singing, just sing. And it doesn't matter if you can sing or not. Who cares? It's just that you get a joy out of that. So do it. And if somebody's driving by and you're singing in your car and they're looking at you like you're a nut, so what?
Man, I love that.
You may never see them again. So what?
Yeah, that's how. Listen, it's funny you say that, because I've been. I'm part of my mastermind group that I'm in. We do these different ultra learning experiences, and one of them was this speaking coach, and it's like this 14 or 15 minute long, like, la 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 type thing. And so I put this thing on with my windows down while I'm driving around the streets here in LA, and I'm just pulling up at a stoplight, like, I can if I want, like singing along this thing. People are looking over at me, and I'm like, yes, because I really enjoy being outside my comfort zone and having those, like, basically building that skin internally of like not caring what people think of me, right. And it's a great way to do it is to, sometimes also when I'm in a group setting and I remember to do it, I'll raise my hand and give the wrong answer on purpose, just so I can feel like everybody being like, oh, that guy's an idiot, And it's like, I don't care what they think about me, but I just want that experience to strengthen my own identity and resilience. So I'm weird though. So
anybody that is creative or, is successful, there's a little bit of madness to all of them. And I think that's wonderful. So, they just think positive. Don't worry about what other people are thinking anymore. And something else that I believe in that we don't stress is I don't believe anybody is beyond redemption.
Same.
Anybody can change. Anybody could have that joy in their life. They have to come to that conclusion themselves, but we're here as kind of a, I guess, a tool or a device to help them get there. And that's why you try to live your life as best you can, because if people are watching you and they see that you're on the right path and think good things are happening for you, then they're going to want that too. But
yeah, I agree. I think the best thing people can do is be a positive role model.
That's right. Well, I wish you all the success in the world. And
yes, right back at you, man.
I appreciate this conversation, and I hope somebody's listening and they get something from this.
Same. God bless you, brother.
Same to you. God bless you, sir. And to everyone who's watching or listening to us, take this message with you. There's hope. There's some positivity out there that can happen in your life. I don't care where you're at. I don't know what your status is. You could be just barely surviving, or you could be the richest person. There's a message here that can change your life, that can bring joy to you. And real joy, it comes from us, being together, communing, coming to an agreement, bringing positive messages to each other. So this is what we're trying to do. I appreciate you listening, or you watching, excuse me. And until the next one, peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network